about 3 days worth of food, water, some basic low-end first aid, clothes, the things you would need if there was some kind of disaster, an ice storm. There's been storms in Nevada that have been severe enough where they've said, you know, you guys just stay home. Don't go out unless you need to. Yeah, so if you go to the stores, by that time, they're fairly empty. So this is the stuff you would have on hand all the time should you need it. If there's an earthquake, you'll have what you need. There's obviously going to be some infrastructure damage. And these kits are built that, say for example, there is an earthquake and your home becomes unoccupiable. It's not safe until you have somebody check it out. You can see damage, you can see like a head or beam drop down. I don't want to go in the house. You take that kit, you stay in your backyard. This has happened in California several times where people have had damage to their homes and they just stay in their backyard. You're not going to generally leave. We also talked about in those kits what kids need. So there's a little bit of a different requirement behind that. Somebody like me, I can sit there with a book and I'm happy as a clam for all night, all day. but when I was 8, that's not going to happen that way. I'm going to need something to occupy me. So Glenda talked about all the things that she carries and the things that she has that helps with that. And kids of different ages have different needs. We then went and talked about pets. So everybody in here, I think, pretty much has had pets or has pets, and we seem like to be very much pet people, including livestock. We also have people that have some very heavy livestock, so cattle, sheep, horses, and we talked about what are the things in this area that can happen with that. So if you have livestock, Washoe Event Center will open up as part of their disaster plan that you can bring your cattle, sheep, horses to. If you have pets and you have to go to a shelter or a friend's house, how do you handle that? So Chris gave us a demonstration, a briefing on what you need to pack and have on hand. So we've had these situations occur. I have very large dogs. I've had cats in the past. I've had ferrets and birds. And if there's something detrimental, something tragic that happens, your pets freak out pretty much immediately. Cats go into hiding. They become very agitated. Ferrets can bite very hard if they're scared. And if you're quickly handling animals, then it puts them in a stress role, and they're not sure how to react to that. They only really have a couple mechanisms. And you have to be able to control that, think ahead. Packing for them after the fact is tough to do. And I lived in Fernley for a little while, a very dark chapter of my life because it was Fernley. But there's railroad tracks, and Lord knows what they actually transport, but I always assumed I would see them going by with giant skulls and crossbones on the cars, and there's a lot of industry out there, and I can guarantee there's no regulation in Fernley whatsoever, including health inspectors and restaurants. So you don't know what's going to happen on these railways or what can spill. So I've always had that kind of fear in the back of my head, and a couple times it's happened. There was a flood that occurred in Fernley that was just near me, and I was fortunate enough to miss it by that much. And so it didn't get into my home, but there was homes a little bit over that were torn apart and just torn out, and it's just that kind of immediate thing. I was in Reno. I got a phone call, hey, you live in Fernley, right? Yeah. You might want to turn on the news. Oh, shoot. And then I had to go in and be ready to evacuate my pets. Fortunately, I had bags and kits put together. So that's why we do these things. It isn't a phobia, it isn't a fear of, you know, we're going to get attacked or something. It's the basic things about living in this northern Nevada area that we want to have a preparation ready to go if we should. Now, Vic did one a while back on wildfires. So where he lives out in Red Rock, wildfires are a very, very real possibility. And we had, keep me honest here folks, about 3-4 years ago, fires come up through Collin Ranch. Yes, okay, about 4 years ago. And those things you never would expect that in a normal residential neighborhood they'd have a wildfire come rushing through, and they did. So we talked about that, and I think that was pretty much what we covered. Oh, and then Vic talked about everyday carry items. So these are items that you'll normally see preppers carrying, and a lot of times you'll be able to spot a prepper in a crowd because of the bracelets or certain gear that they have, just the kind of a look. But it's those things we generally have with us all the time that if something goes wrong, some little thing happens, you know, hey, I got a little screwdriver, I can fix that, or I got a cigarette lighter, I can take care of that, or I got a little string, I got something always on me to be that MacGyver guy. So we talked about that and what are those items and how do you do it so you don't look like you're all tacked up, ready to go to war. How do you just have a normal life but have the things on you that you need? So he did a presentation on that. So this is part 2. If you missed anything, we do have the handouts. I brought them back so you can go and pull the handouts off the table. They're lined up back there, as well as these are on our site, nnpg.net. So with that, you know who I am. Is there anybody here that wants to introduce himself that's new that would like to say who you are, how long you've been prepping, what it is that you're prepping for? If not, that's fine, but is there anybody that'd like to introduce themselves? Twice? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Steve McKevitt, Senior. I've been here 27 years. My son has a we have a company, McKevitt & Son Painting, house painting and stuff. I'm a handyman, but I'm also a naturopathic doctor and retired. And so I know a little bit about herbs and homeopathics and stuff, and alternative medicine. And as a fellow prepper, I don't charge much, or if anything at all, to help.
We had a chance to meet you at
the herbs at wholesale, so you can't get better.
We had a chance to meet you at the Conflicted game, so really nice to have you join us for that.
Thank you.
So, and if you guys don't know,
I started prepping in '72, and then my wife left in '97, so I've been kind of not working at it. So I started working at it again about 6-8 months ago. But I got a lot of memory refreshing to do to learn from you guys that know what you're doing.
Hopefully we can help you out with that.
Yeah.
So, if you're unaware, we do have the Conflicted game. It's a lot of fun, so I would encourage you to sign up for that. It gives you a chance to talk through real case scenarios. You know, what if something really, really bad, and it puts you into these extreme, you know, do or die kind of scenarios, and it gives you that opportunity to think that through and hear what other people might think. It's very powerful to get other people's opinions. I would encourage you to attend that.
Before you go any further?
Yes, ma'am.
That Conflicted game too, I've maxed out the group at 25. So if you RSVP at 25, you'll get put on the waiting list. And we've been averaging 18 to 20 each month. So if you want to come in, once we hit 25, that's it. Otherwise, it's too many people. We'd never get through the night.
Well, we could make Ken stand in the corner. That would give room for another table, so. Move his head off to the corner. Wish you were here. He will be here later, though.
He's at a rescue event.
He's getting his hair done. So from our last meeting, I do want to make sure I publicly recognize and thank Vic Bassell, our co-leader, Glenda Dudley, our co-leader, and Kristen Macer for doing the presentations. Thank you so much. It's a ton of work to do those. So I'm going to move right into some of our new business. Our meetup site that we've been using, that you're all familiar with, I'm going to end that site. We're going to transition 100% over to nnpg.net, Northern Nevada Preppers Group. So it's nnpg.net. We're going to do it at the end of this month. So we've had that site available. We put that together to be a file repository initially for all the documents we had to make it convenient. Then we went ahead and we bought some more bandwidth, expanded that site. We started putting the radio shows that we do on Wednesday on that, the podcast. So people all over the world are listening to those, which is really cool when you see like England and France and Brazil and China and all these other places that are listening to the shows, actually going in and listening to those shows individually. It's very neat to see that. So we have that site. We've been working on a forum. TWP's been assisting us with that, and we've been going back and forth with some other folks, and we like how it looks. So that will give you an opportunity to post whatever you would like to post, to include pictures. So a lot of what we did on Meetup, this is a little more robust. So it gives us a lot more capability to do more of the prepper stuff and a little bit less of the social interaction, because Meetup will go out and solicit like LinkedIn or Facebook, hey, you might be interested in so-and-so because they like to backpack. And we get a lot of participation that way, but not necessarily folks that are going to be interested in what we're doing. So we're going to move from that. It's also very expensive, frankly. They are upping the charges rapidly for me. So I'm going to move us off that. I can better spend the money for our events rather than our website. So we have two, we're going to go to one. NNPG at the end of the month. I will jump ahead a little bit. We got invited by the Prepper Club, the Ham Radio Club in town to participate in a ham radio convention. So that I talked to them the other day. They sent an email, which we sent to the leadership team, and we have decided to go ahead and participate. This will be our first public event. So we're kind of excited. They are, they're really anxious to have us participate. So it's very positive. This will be the first time we do that. So from a prepper perspective, if there's something that you think that we should talk to in a community event, please get with either myself, Glenda, or Vic and let us know what that may be that you think we should talk to when we set up this demonstration table. So we'd like to hear your ideas because we're going to finalize today and get this in the mail and get it going.
When is that going to take place?
That's going to be May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and it's going to be at Boomtown. So the Nevada convention is in Boomtown this year.
Is there a website, nevcon.org?
There is. It's NVCon.
C-O-N-N.
C-O-N. It's nvcon.org. Thank you.
And what dates are those again?
It's going to be May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Okay, and that's open to anybody, not just ham radio people.
Was that org?
Org, correct, O-R-G.
Question about ham radio net.
Yes, sir.
I got my ham radio. I don't have a license, but whenever you talk about it, you don't mention what frequency or channel you're on.
So the frequencies that we're using currently are the Mount Rose linked repeater system. And what that is, it's a series of repeaters on the different mountaintops that surround this area that go out to about 150 square miles worth of coverage. So Mount Rose, Peavine, Virginia Peak, it gets you out to Urington, Fallon, Fernley, Carson. Help me out, guys. Any other? Truckee, yeah, the mountains up around the lake. And any place else? I think that's it right now. That's it right now. So it covers all of northern Nevada.
What's the frequency?
So the frequency, 147.210, offset 1.
210, you can get, yeah, that's Peavine.
That's Peavine, yeah. It's actually on the site. If you go to SNARS, S-N-A-R-S, the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society.org, they will give you all the frequencies. They'll list which ones we're using, and they'll give you the programming offset. So what the offset and what the PL is.
That way I can go ahead and, I can't talk, but I could listen.
You can listen, yeah. You can program your radio and listen in and hear what we're doing.
I think you also have them on nnpg.net, right?
We do. We do. Yeah, I listed them there as well. Okay, so.
Semaphore.
And with that, I'm going to open it up to, before we get started on our presentations, is there any new business from the group? Anything that anybody would like to talk about? Yes, sir.
I found out recently, I'm retired, I'm on Social Security, Medicare, that kind of stuff, that Medicare no longer will pay for some injections, drugs, or whatever. We all know probably why. But, you know, one of the things I was supposed to get that normal's paid for now would cost me, if I got it here, $900 for each deal. Well, I was turned on to this northwestpharmacy.com, which is in Canada. And for the same $900, I can get that same exact med for $175, and they ship it to me. And they're real easy to work with. If it's a prescription, whatever, you can actually go on their site and see exactly how much it costs compared to maybe what you find out what it costs here. You can, and then you can join them, and then basically once you have your sign in, you can go ahead and order that. The only thing you would have to do is you go ahead and you send your prescription by either email or fax. You call them up on their number, make sure they got it, and boom, you're done. And then they only take MasterCard or personal checks. And I believe you can actually take a picture of your personal check and send that to them, and they'll accept that as well.
Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Close by Costco's, if you need injections like shingles or anything like that, that generally cost $300 and some odd dollars. Right now, if you have Medicare, you can go in and you can get it for $47. You don't have to be a member of Costco. All you have to do is tell them that you want to go to the pharmacy. Any prescription drugs that you have, and if your drug plan charges a fortune, go to Costco first. They're about a fraction of the price.
Perfect. Anybody else? Any other new business? All right. Then I'm going to leap right into our first presentation. So the first thing that we're going to cover is going to be bug out bags. And then following my presentation, we're going to do the Get Home Possible bags. That's going to be by Vic. I would highly suggest that's the one you really want to make sure, take notes. We have this information out on our site, so you can reference that. We have different versions of that checklist. This is the one we all use. And then we're going to do everyday carry items for kids, presented by Glenda, who's going to talk about what your kids can actually carry in Washoe, what's allowed by the schools, what's not allowed by the schools. So she's going to talk to that. And then Jerry is going to do survival tins. And these are like the little Altoid tin kits you see, the little survival kits you drop in your pocket or leave in your glove box. So he's a master at this stuff. He actually has gone through, tested the material that's in those kits, and he'll tell you what really works and what doesn't work. So with that, I want to talk about bug out bags. So has everybody got their paperwork? Is everybody able to follow along? Okay, what I'm going to talk to first is bug out bag essentials. I'll wait a minute.
There's also ones for possibles bag, they're kind of a checklist style, so you might.
Yes, please get all the paperwork that's actually back there. We're going to go over all that. There's also some sand cookies back there that Paul put out. So if you haven't had survival rations, you might want to try a sand cookie. I love me some sand cookie, man. I love those things. You know, they're like 9,000 calories a bar, and I can get like 8 of them in my cheeks.
Jerry, is that a cell phone on your eyeglass? Is that
Just to keep
gotcha.
it's a small recording device.
I know.
Because it's sticking straight up. The pestle is in there.
One of these days, I'll.
You know what? I swear to God, I hope to be half as cool as you someday. You are my hero.
I thought that was a new gadget. I'm like, now what is
it got now? I know. I want to know.
Not this time.
All right, folks. So I'm going to talk about bug out bags. So in general, last meeting we talked about the 72-hour kit, and what this is a very enhanced version of your 3-day kit. And in your 3-day kit, we had discussed food, water, some basic medical, clothing, lighting, some very small hand tools like a knife, a multi-tool. All of that is in here as well, but this one's a little bigger. And what you're going to find in your bug out bags is you also include stuff to navigate with, stuff to move around with. And what this bag would be designed to do is if I had to be evacuated from my home, you know, if sheriff comes through and says, there's a fire, you guys need to get out. You got a very short amount of time to get out, go. And you're dealing with your pets, you're dealing with your personal stuff. You grab this bag and you have everything you need, okay? I'm gonna be brutally honest. There isn't really a whole lot of us that are in the shape and condition anymore to go out into the woods and hard rough it for a long period of time. We can camp overnight, but then my back's gonna hurt tomorrow. Well, I need to go home and get on my regular bed because that's a better, I paid $1,000 for that mattress. That helps my back sleep better. And it's not comfortable. We're not in the shape we used to be. And in the military folks, I know there's a couple in here, they paid us to hump this kind of gear all day long. And at the end of a good week of that, I want to die. I was 20 years old. I was in shape to do this. I can't imagine now throwing on a pack like this and running out to the woods. But if you go to the prepper sites, they're going to talk to that. They're going to say you need to have all this gear, all these supplies. What you see here is an exact representation of what's on this list. Everything on this list that I have presented, which is the Bug Out Bag Essentials, is in this kit, including the water. This thing is heavy. This is incredibly heavy. It would take me a half hour just to drive it to my or drag it to my truck.
Have you weighed that?
No, I was going to, but I wasn't sure I wanted to risk the scale.
I bet it's more than 80 pounds. It might
be.
Because I can lift my dog who's over 70 easily.
I would guess it would be.
So this is an incredibly heavy bag. And in this bag, I do stand by this. So you do need the material that's in this bag. And what I'm thinking for me, in real life situation, I'm not going to put this bag on and run for the hills. It is not going to happen. It's just not possible at this age. It's unlikely that we would ever think to do that. And the truth of the matter is, most people don't leave their homes in time of emergency. You're going to be in your backyard. You're going to be nearby. You're going to be holed up at a friend's house, a hotel, someplace, maybe in your vehicle down the street for maybe the night with the family, but no more than that. You're going to try to get back to your home as soon as possible. And if you look back at any disaster that's ever occurred in northern Nevada, wildfires, even minor earthquakes, we all went straight back to our homes. We didn't grab our bags and run. And it's unlikely that I think we ever would. In any situation, people are trying to get back into their homes even while they're on fire. And if you've seen those roadblocks where people are trying to get back, it's the cop's responsibility to keep you from going to your own home. And you can see how upset people are getting. So the mentality to get away is not really there. In any situation, Hurricane Katrina is always the one we reference. But people went back immediately. And they were evacuated for the most part. They left, but they went back as soon as they possibly could. So that's what this bag is really designed to do. In real life, in a real prepper environment, for us as real people, what we have here is the ability for us to grab what we need, go stay someplace, either a hotel, a friend's house, hey, let me crash on your couch, some safe location. Maybe you're going to go spend the night at your work location if you have a business, what may be. This will be the one that you grab and use. So in here, I will stress there is nothing more important than your personal paperwork. Personal paperwork will be inclusive of your ID. I cannot stress to you how important it is to have some form of ID. And it's too easy for me to leave and not have my wallet. Or you maybe don't have your purse, or you didn't know your information wasn't there. But I've copied my passport, and I know nobody carries that as a general rule, not in the States. So your insurance information, if there is a home fire, if there is something that occurs, an earthquake which sparks a fire, you lose that home, first thing you're going to do is call the insurance company. So the world may end on Tuesday, but Wednesday morning, I live State Farm. Get over here. And that's why you need that information. You need it handy. It needs to be with you all the time, because that's what you're going to end up ultimately doing. When Hurricane Katrina came through, FEMA was ordered by the current administration, or the administration at that time, to get money to people now. It was a PR nightmare what was occurring. So the one thing they didn't want to see happen was people suffering that needed money. They issued checks left and right. Turned out everybody in line was not completely honest. Imagine the odds. So they have sat down, and this occurred infernally, and I speak from experience because a very close friend works for FEMA, his communications, and we talked about that. He was infernally when they had their flood because it was a PR nightmare. And the one thing they need to know is who you are. You had to have some form of proof of ID. And I will say this, there is not a government agency on the planet that's going to allow you to plug in something into their computer. So if you have a thumb drive and you're like, well, let me plug it into your government issued computer that you're signed for, The answer is going to be no. They're not going to authorize it. They're not going to allow it. So you want to have some hard copies. Print it up. If you had to go to a hotel and you don't have that, your information, you can still show them a hard copy. Here's a copy of my driver's license. Here's a copy of my credit card. Run it on this number. They type it in. Boom, boom, boom. You got a room. And that's all you need to do with that. So above all else, that's the most important thing. Glenda brought up something. I'm going to steal her thunder slightly. Have a picture of you and your child. Make sure you have your child's information in case you get separated. A lot of stories about that. Same with pets. So have your pet information. I have 2 St. Bernards, but if you don't know Saints, they all look the same. They all look identical. She has a pot-bellied Samoyed. So if there was, you know, like pot-bellied pigs in her dog, you might not recognize the difference. So she'd need to have a picture of them. So have a picture of your pets, have their ID, map of the area. So a lot of times we navigate, but if those roads are closed, we get creatures of habit. Have a map. It takes up virtually no room. It's an easy thing to open a map and say, okay, I can get to where I want to go. Or they say, go to the exposition center. Well, I don't know where that is. How do I get there? You know, get the map out. It saves you so much hassle. A compass. A lot of times you don't need to navigate cross country, but when people say, yeah, you need to go north, and you can easily get turned around. Who here has actually had compass training but got turned around and ended up going south on the freeway instead of north and not realized it until you see some exit like, oh, that's Albuquerque. That can't be right. I don't think that's where I should be going. So compass is a very handy thing to have. Yes, sir?
Are you talking about a regular street map?
I'm talking about a regular street map, a paper copy of a street map, and a compass. And the reason is that they're so small, they take up so little room, but a lot of people are going to give you directions north, south, east, west. If you're frazzled, if your house is burning, if you're concerned because you didn't get all the heartbeats out of the house, you left your dog behind because you couldn't find him. If these things start playing on your mind, you're not thinking straight. A compass, those little things are a good way to check yourself. Don't always rely on your memory. I've been evacuated as a kid in some horrible wildfires in Southern California. And my dad was a very reasonable, straight, knew what he was doing kind of guy, but when we were racing to get out of there, and he's grabbing kids and, you know, pets and trying to get a horse out of there, you know, you got things on your mind. So he says, yeah, I need you kids, go south down the road. What? Where did south come from? Which way is south? And you don't know. So that's why I talk about this. Stress comes at you very quickly. First aid kit. Include a blister care kit and an eye care kit. A lot of first aid kits do not have those 2 items inherently, so you need to go out and get some moleskin, which is just like a padding. If you've never worked with it, anybody that's ever hiked a long ways or been in the military knows what moleskin is. It goes around the blister and it provides some cushion. If you haven't walked a long distance, if you are in the wrong shoes that day because you were in your work shoes or loafers or sandals or something that wasn't appropriate for the situation, you're going to get blisters. Eye care. It's too easy to get in a disaster, in some kind of emergency. Things are getting kicked up. You get damage to your eyes. They start watering. There's different things in the air that are going to cause you issues. You want to be able to just a little Visine or something take care of that. I stress that because it was something I always carried in the military, because we talk about combat wounds and stuff. We don't talk about the actual reality when choppers are kicking up dirt and dust and you get sand in your eyes. We don't talk about that, but it's very prevalent. Yes, sir?
I've seen them, but I don't know where you can get them. They're small, but they're goggles-like thing, but they actually fit over the eye, sort of clear.
Mm-hmm. Any sporting goods store will have those.
Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight will have them. And really, virtually any hardware store will have them too.
Does that should keep all the dust and dirt?
It helps very much.
Yeah.
Yes. First, notebooks, some permanent ink, Sharpies. It's real easy to write on your window for family members. Went to Red Cross Shelter or sent us to Hug High. You know, wherever your evacuation point may be, they're saying, hey, everybody that lives in this area, we want you over here. So not everybody's home yet. Sharpie, write it on the window. You can clean it up with some Windex. Okay, and also if you have a notebook, just a little notepad, you can tuck it in the door. Kids come home, mom comes home, dad comes home. Where's my family? Oh, got it. Okay. If you have to leave a vehicle behind, those type of things. You'll have it, you'll need it, you'll be glad you have it. Necessary medications, we want some pain reliever, anti-diarrhea. Okay, again, it seems like a funny thing to have because you always feel good, but stress changes what your body does. You might drink some water that's not palatable. You know, things happen very quickly. Anti-diarrhea is going to be a lifesaver for you. Allergy medication and cough drops. You start getting a lot of dust in the air from whatever the disaster may be, wildfires, little allergy meds and some cough drops. Everybody has a different sensitivity. May not be for you. Maybe you'll be that hero for the family sitting next to you where the kids are coughing real bad and you go, hey, I got some cough drops. You'll be somebody's hero that day. So water, there's all kinds of ways to carry water. Water's very heavy. So 1 pound of water, 1 gallon of water is 8 pounds and some change. So I carry the emergency packets. They're right here. They're little packets. I only need a few days worth of water. But we always work in prepper rules of 3. 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is just right. So make sure that you have a means to filter water, purify water, whatever that may be. But you're going to want to, so I'll play this out. If you're at a truck stop, a rest stop, along the river, there's water. May not be good water, may not be water you want to risk. If there's an earthquake, water pipes get damaged. So you may have a boil order. And how do you deal with that? Well, you can actually boil it if you have a little stove kit in here. You can filter it, you can purify it with the iodine tablets. There's other ways to deal with this, or avoid that water altogether and start working off your own water. Okay. Food, again, Paul put out some sandbars. These are like the MRE, I'm sorry, not MREs. These are emergency rations you'll find like in Life Rafts and stuff. They're actually very, very good. They're high calorie, they're 2,400 calories. It's like a little cookie. If you never had one, they take up very, very little room. But one little block is 2,400 calories or 36 depending on the size of the block. That's a full day's worth of meal in one little block. So like space age food. Yes, sir?
Make a suggestion, when you put the cough drops and stuff in there, when you're hiking, your mouth will get dry, but you may not be thirsty. I've always included lemon drops, and if you're diabetic, you get the sugar-free ones, you get the other ones with sugar in them, and you just pop one of those in your mouth, and it keeps your saliva going so your mouth doesn't get dry.
You're way ahead of me, but thank you. Yes, you're correct. I also have some hard candy in here. So hard candy is one of those things that's a comfort item. Again, if you're in a situation, you're around children, that little piece of hard candy can go a long way for somebody's state of mind. So it also keeps you hydrated to a degree when you're hiking. Military rations always have a piece of hard candy in them, and it's for when we're doing the long road marches. It keeps your mouth wet. Food is up to you. I would ensure that you have some, but food takes up room. It takes up a lot of weight. When you're in a high stress situation, sometimes you're not that hungry. So don't think that you need to add a lot of food in your bag. It's just not going to be necessary. Small tarp or a backpack, tent, shelter, something, just get yourself out of the elements. Okay. A tarp normally is good enough because of our summer conditions. If it's raining, if it's cold, if it's snowing, there's always something that you want to have over you. And again, general rule of 3, prepper rules of 3 talks to 3 hours without shelter. It's one of the very first things we do. So 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. So again, those rules of 3 keep coming back. So 3 hours without shelter. You want to get into some sense of shelter if possible. Doesn't have to be much. A sleeping bag. Our Nevada nights get very, very, very cold. It may be 70, 80 degrees during the day. I've gotten up in the morning and had it down to 18 degrees. It's incredible how cold it can get at night. If you're not used to that, if that's something you don't do often, you'd be surprised how cold you can possibly become, especially if you're on the ground. It will suck the life out of you. 3 fire starting methods, that's a standard. Jerry is the master of fire starting methods. So if you have not had a chance to really talk about putting together a fire kit, please take advantage of Jerry's time. I know he's gracious enough to give it to us. He'll kind of give you the basics of what you need to get, and I know Paul has a lot of that here, so he can help you get going. Rain and snow gear, that's also a warmth factor. Make sure you have something to cover us for the nights. Camp pot, utensils, those kind of things. You want to be able to heat and boil water. That's really what that's for. Light sources, radio. Radio is necessary for us to keep up with the news. That's where the news is going to be coming from. I know that in any kind of situation, heavy storms, big situations, I never listen to the radio, but it's on them. So it's something that if you're not used to carrying it, have one with you. Phone chargers. I don't carry my phone charger. I'm in a really bad habit about that, so now I've had to stage them all over Nevada. So wherever I go, I know there's a phone charger waiting for me. I don't know why I can't think to carry one with me. It just, something blocks in my head, so I've had to deal with that, and everybody's got their own thing, but phone chargers are mine, so make sure you got one. Personal hygiene, too often I think we forget about that. In any war, in any situation, diseases kill more people than the actual combat casualty rate. So World War I, of course, was horrific. Civil War, as we go through World War II and some of the other situations. And we were still learning valuable lessons about hygiene, about healthcare, even today from current conflicts. So number one thing, soap. Keep your hands clean. Keep your hands as clean as you possibly can, because you're going to be in things you're not normally dealing with. You're going to be in an environment that's dirtier than your home, that you're going to be touching public facilities. You need to keep your hands clean as much as you possibly can. Teeth, that's a big deal in the military. We learned from POWs out of Vietnam that the dental care was huge. So what happened to these guys that didn't have the proper dental care, or things occurred, wisdom teeth getting bad and things, it was the most excruciating thing they could possibly go through. So the military now is just adamant that we're going to have these certain situations with your dental care. And it's consistent. They do not let you off the hook for that. In fact, it seemed like every time we lined up, there was something to be done at the dentist's office. So ensure that you have that. A little bit extra might go a long ways for you too. Have a way to carry your water. Some rope. I always talk to Rope, and Vic's a master on that. He has some amazing knot tying guides for you to follow. When we watch TV at night, we have like this string that he's actually given us, and I just practice tying knots while I'm watching TV. And it keeps me in line on how to do that. It's a very good skill to have. You always want to have some ropes and paracord. Bank line is something he introduced us to, and it's amazing stuff, especially for the cost and how light it is. So he'll talk to you that if you want to explain it. Yes, sir.
Just a segue to what you said a minute ago. I was working on cruise ships, and the doctors on the ship said to really know if your hands are clean, because they have a lot of norovirus on cruise ships, right? You sing happy birthday to yourself while you're washing your hands. That's 19 seconds, and that's the required time to make sure your hands are really clean.
I learned that as a kid. It's actually really good, yeah. I remember in basic training they would make us sing the Army song.
As far as soap goes, what's preferred, liquid?
It's a personal preference thing.
Okay.
It's whatever you like.
Okay.
I always try not to use perfume soaps and stuff. You know,
Scare the animals away.
Yeah, it's just whatever you like.
Gross mosquitoes.
But you smell so pretty.
I know. Sometimes that's not a bad thing if you're in the field for a while. So always carry a knife. That goes without saying, I would think, for most of us. Ziploc bags, trash bags, a way to keep your trash contained, organized. Again, sanitation, hygiene. I put it back there. Jerry does a really good article on hygiene. So we printed that, and thank you very much for allowing us to do that. So you have that available. It's an incredibly in-depth article where he talks about that. You may want to take a few minutes and read it, because I think primarily in any survival situation, hygiene is so much more critical than anything else, honestly. I talk about in this sewing kit, plastic ground cover, so you want to keep that moisture off you. And then clothing, and I just put on here the general clothing you're going to want to need. Clearly you can see what I'm talking about as a way to layer your clothing, work boots, that kind of gear. I am a huge fan of merino wool. It is a miracle cloth. But if you don't know this, I will say that cotton in our environment is a bad item to have during the wintertime. Great in the summer, and you'll see that the prepper community, a lot of us, we rotate our clothes. So I get to a certain point in the year, so I'll pull out the heavy stuff, the wool, and I'll change it over for cotton because it gets so hot during the day. But if you sweat and you get down to these cold Nevada nights, again, it may be 70, 80 degrees, you're working extensively if you have damage to your home and you can't stay inside, you get sleeping in the backyard, it gets very cold at night, and you're still damp with cotton, it's going to cause damage to you. It can kill you. I did hypothermia presentation. I talked about a story when I was in Germany, and we were training. We were out hiking all day, and it was just nasty, cold, wet weather, and we were soaked. And we all jumped in our sleeping bags without really drying off. And after a very short amount of time, we were all very hypothermic and found out medics were waking us up, and that's not a good position to be in. It's terrifying, in fact. So, again, I talk about the real life situation. Generally, you're going to leave your home for wildfires or earthquakes. So dust mask, a bandana, work gloves, some eye protection, those are the things that are going to be more real life for you. I gave you one more checklist, and this checklist is very, very close to the items I talked about. But what you find on here is very prevalent in the prepper community, and that's to carry weapons. I do not have a weapon on here. I do not carry a firearm, crossbow, bazooka, samurai sword. I don't carry a weapon on here, and here's why. If you are in a disaster situation, in any disaster situation, and you see me camoed up, carrying an M16, what's your first thought going to be? I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. And if you're law enforcement and you see me carrying an M16, what's your first thought?
I'll shoot you.
I'm a problem. I'm a problem to the public safety. I am somebody that they now need to go deal with. And I don't want to be dealt with. I don't want to be the guy that has to have law enforcement come over and tell me I'm an idiot. Stop being an idiot. I don't want to be that guy. So the prepper community is huge about talking about carrying weapons. I'm going to tell you, contrary to that advice, in real life, if you're trying to go to the school to get information, if you're showing up at a county building to get your paperwork filed because you're in a disaster, if you're just trying to get into a hotel room and you're the guy carrying heavy firepower, you're not probably going to be taken care of. They're going to ask you to leave. Or you're going to start drawing the wrong type of attention to yourself. The bag that I'm displaying here, and I know Vic's going to talk about it too, it's all civilian. There's nothing military about my bag. It's really just a regular civilian bag. The only thing that you may notice is that I have a machete on here, and that's for a tool. I would probably drop that. Honestly, I wouldn't carry that with me if I was in public. I carry it because I know that it has a purpose for what I'm going to use it for. But otherwise, this bag only looks civilian. If you're mil-spec, if you're carrying military grade equipment and you have that sort of setup, and you're a bad guy, and you see that, what is your first thought? That guy's got stuff. He's probably got everything I need. He's got good stuff. He doesn't have cheap stuff. He's got good stuff.
Good stuff.
He's got the good stuff. And it's very easy. Okay, I know I got 3 New Yorkers here. I know I got 3 New Yorkers. So, does everybody know how a mugging works, by the way? Does everybody understand how a mugging works? It's nothing like people come up and go, I'm going to mug you, boogie, boogie. They run up behind you. And if you're packing gear, you're packing weight, you got people working in groups, you got one guy in front of you distracting you. This is taught a lot with the witness defense courses. I'm distracting you. Meanwhile, my buddy's coming up behind you. Down you go. And when you go down, they make sure you stay down. So they don't hit you one time, they stomp on you. Because they've got to keep you down on the ground long enough to take your gear. It takes that long. That long. That's how fast that can happen. So it's something that you do not want to draw attention to yourself. We call it being gray. If you've heard that term before, what we're talking about is blending into your environment. Don't go all camoed up. Don't ranger up your gear. Don't go out there looking like a ninja, because you're going to draw the wrong type of attention. So with that, I would suggest to you that if you guys have already done your 72-hour kits and you have the type of bags that allow you to be transporting your gear, put these bags together, take your kit, and move it into something like this now. Get yourself into more of a bug-out bag. And the reason is, this will give you some more you may not have if it's sitting in a suitcase or a shipping or a storage container box. This has a very practical purpose, but I again will go against popular conjecture from the prepper community. It's rare we evacuate, very, very rare. It's not a common thing. So I hate this show, but Doomsday Preppers, we'll talk about practically every show people are ready to bug out. You know, where are you going to bug out to? Where's your bug out location? let's bug them out, let's get the kids together, and it's a huge amount of people fleeing. Truthfully, people don't flee. So, in all practical application, think about what your situation is, think about your life, think about if you had to throw this bag on, and how far would you go. So I brought this in. I would ask that you take a moment, just pick it up, know what this weight is going to be, so you have an actual representation in your mind what that list, the simplified list, weighs. So you know what you're going to end up ultimately having to deal with when you put this kit together. Yes, ma'am.
For the ladies here, from our last meeting when we saw what Jerry uses, David went out at a garage sale and bought a little luggage carrier. And he has attached my 72-hour kit to the luggage carrier because there's no way in hell that I could even carry my 72-hour kit. So you might want that for your kids or for yourself. And now it's going to be something bigger.
Exactly.
By the way,
Just play
Costco,
a devil's advocate question.
Yes, ma'am.
72-hour kits and bug-out bags, is it necessary to have both, or can you have one be both for you?
That's a great question. So my personal opinion, and Vic will tell you every time, and he's right, prepping is personal. I like only having this kit. I don't have a 72-hour kit and a bug-out bag. I have a 72-hour home, and I have a bug-out bag. I have everything that I would normally keep in a kit and then some in my regular home, because my intention is most times I'm going to bug in. I'm not going to bug out. I'm going to stay in my home. But I also have this kit built ready to go, and this is what I actually use, more of a 72-hour item, in case I were to leave. So everything in my kit is in this bag, plus a little bit more, and that's why it's a little heavier. You know, I have work boots, I have other gear in here I would change out of, and that will lighten this up. But yes, I use only one kit because of convenience and cost.
I noticed your sleeping bag there is rather small. Most of mine are fairly large. Where did you get one that was that small?
This is a compression bag, so what it does, it takes a very big bag and it brings it down to a very small bag. You just need to get a good compression bag. It'll take that down for you.
Okay.
I wasn't here in your last meeting. Do you keep your 72-hour thing in the trunk of your car?
I do not. So I keep a bag like this in my vehicle, which is Vic is going to cover. So I carry a different bag in my vehicle all the time, and I keep this in my house in the closet. So this stays ready to go, easy to get to. I can just grab it on the way out the door. A couple dogs underneath each arm and a bag on my back. So.
The problem I have, I have a truck. I don't have a trunk to put it into. And the thing I'm only worrying about is if I put it in behind the seat in like a club cab, somebody's going to see it, maybe break the window, maybe get in. But
real risk. Yeah, blanket over it. Real risk. But I will say that, and I've always had a bag with me. Ever since I got back to the States, I've always had a bag with me. I've never had that happen. And I, for a long time, lived in California, Fresno. You know, Stockton. So I've been lucky maybe, but I've never had that issue.
So how many cubic inches is that bag?
How many what?
This is the 80.
Cubic inches.
Yeah, so it's 80 cubic feet. I'm trying to remember. It's the biggest one I could possibly
That is
find.
probably one of the biggest bags on the market for size. And it's stuffed.
To the gills. I couldn't slip a piece of paper in here right now. It's that full. So.
When a small hand truck, if somebody has a problem, you know, the ones you can buy that fold up, be good for somebody that is by themselves.
Very much so.
I was just going to say, I found a collapsible luggage, or I use it for work, but it actually folds flat.
Yeah.
So, and it's really nice because I can keep it in my car, and when I need to move boxes, I can stack about 4 of those white boxes up on it.
Yeah, that's
so it
like
holds
one
about 50
I have,
pounds.
I think when you close it up, even the wheels.
It does,
up.
yes.
Yeah.
So, just in my 72-hour / bug-out kit is a roller luggage with the extending handle on it, and it has actual straps that come over it that I can't, if I'm not rolling it, I can put it up and wear it as a backpack.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I did a lot of hiking in Asia, and in some of those places can be hostile. I would suggest if you're carrying a bag, It depends on the situation. If you don't want to attract attention, get a rain cover that has like a green or darker color. But in some situation you want to be found, I have a rain cover that's like has two sides. The other one's like orange, and I can turn it over if I want to be seen, and then turn it around if I want to be like have a low profile. I want to be hidden.
That's actually a very good point. This does have a cover built in that's bright yellow, and when I bought this, that was one of the considerations, that if I wanted to be found, if it was a situation that this was in my vehicle and and I was stranded someplace and I had this and I want to be found, I would throw that cover on it. I also have a Mylar bag in here for warmth, but a big shiny silvery thing stands out. So, and that can also be torn up into small strips to mark a trail. So when we do the summer camp, we'll show you how to do that as well. So, last question, and we got to get going here.
Marking tape is a good thing to take with these, like the the fluorescent tape for marking trail too.
You know what? I could probably put another 100 things that are in there too. So, yeah. You know what? Weight counts. Yeah, ounces or pounds. Ounces or pounds. So, old Army standards that the lighter I can make it, the better it is for me. So whatever I can strip out of this, whatever, if it weighs 2 ounces more than it should, I'll dump 2 ounces off of it. Ounces or pounds. So, all right, with that, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over now.